session on sustainability, which is going to be led by Ms. Virginia Fernandez-Trapa, Program Officer at the UNWTO Sustainable Development of Tourism Department. Please give her a warm welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much, Ms. Noguchi, for the introduction. And thank you to the Nara Prefecture for organizing this important forum. Dear Excellencies, dear all, during this panel, we will discuss about food from the perspective of sustainability, mainly looking at the challenges and opportunities connected with the consumption of food in tourism, and placing special emphasis on the need to reduce food waste as a lever for transformation. I am honored to have the opportunity to moderate this session, as well as to frame it in the context of the work of the One Planet Sustainable Tourism Program, which UNWTO is leading to support addressing global challenges such as climate change, biodiversity loss, or pollution. Let's start with a video to introduce the topic. I would now like to invite the distinguished speakers to join me on stage. Mr. Eijiro Yamakita from JTB Corporation, Mr. Vincent Benjamin from Winnow, Ms. Maddalena Fossati from Condé Nast, Mr. Benjamin Lefilibert from Light Blue Consulting, Ms. Sakiko Yamada from Food Loss Bank in Japan, Mr. Iñaki Gaztelumendi from the Basque Culinary Center, and Mr. Nakul Anand from ITC Limited. So we have seen it in the video. The food system has a problem. The food system is actually the constellation of activities that are involved in the production, processing, transporting, and consumption of food. And today, in its current form, is unsustainable. It's an unsustainable system. So we will be discussing about strategies to enhance the contribution of our sector, tourism, to a more sustainable food system, global food system. And this is also the objective of the global roadmap on food waste reduction in tourism, which we are releasing today, as the Secretary General Polo Lukashvili introduced this morning. So my first question is for Mr. Yamakita. Mr. Eijiro Yamakita is President and CEO of JTB Corporation and board member of UNWTO affiliate members in the Asia and the Pacific region. Mr. Yamakita, this morning we heard from distinguished keynote speakers about the connection between Japanese culture and gastronomy. Would it be possible for you to share with us some examples about how JTB Corporation is supporting tourism stakeholders that are promoting sustainable food?
Thank you, Virginia, distinguished guests, and ladies and gentlemen. Food culture in Japan, as many of the keynote speakers mentioned, deeply rooted in the nature and history and economy, particularly in Japan, of the local community. I believe that the Japanese food culture is a kind of regional art that is deeply rooted in the traditional culture, and at the same time has continued to be refined through interaction with the outside society. Interaction has been deployed by the tourism. Since 6th century in Japan, the Asuka and Nara period in Japan, which began here in Nara, our Japanese culture has developed through trade, embracing cultures from Persia, India, Silk Road, Tang Dynasty, and Korean. I believe that the food for Japan, food for which Japan is now highly appraised by Michelin, for example, is the result of our ancestors' active introduction of the outside culture with an inclusive mindset and an appreciation of diversity since the Asuka period. Until now and from now on in the future, food product and services have been and will continue to be important sector in the tourism. Food is a showcase that reflects the lifestyle, traditional culture of people, the local communities. In Japan, there are ryokan, or traditional Japanese inns, that offer unique culinary and cultural experiences rooted in the traditional culture of each region. Applied to Spain, this service is like a parador combined with the regional food experiences. In Spanish, it could be called parador con experiencia gastronómica. This ryokan-based food, travel, and tourism experience is rooted in the richness and the depth of Japanese local culture. When Miss Wangari Maathai, a famous environmental expert of Kenya, visited Japan in 2005, she praised the Japanese for their innovation and upcycling of the mottainai way of thinking, which is to conserve and to continue using things for a long time. I believe it is important to redesign the sustainability of tourism based on the value rooted in Asia and the Pacific. JTB was founded in the field of tourism, but now our business is not only connecting people to tourist destination, but also connecting the information, know-how, human resources, and systems necessary for people to continue to live and work in regions and in companies. I would like to introduce 3 specific examples. First, in the tourism business, on the left-hand side, we connect travelers with lodging business that are taking sustainable food actions at the point of inquiries and sales. We are promoting initiatives to support micro, small, and medium enterprises by our introduction of Japanese food culture at the rural area, such as no-haku, agro-tourism experiences in Japan, stay in the countryside, which is not yet well known to travelers in Japan and overseas. There's an exhibition outside of this room about this. We also recommend our customers to stay the accommodations and utilize the restaurant that are working on sustainable food actions such as avoiding foods and excessive packaging. Second, in a corporate solutions business, we are also taking to the challenges of connecting companies and farmers. This is very important actions. Many farmers are disposing of their agricultural product before they are shipped to urban areas because of the high cost of transportation from rural to urban area. We approached corporations in urban areas and co-produced ready-to-eat meal in using this vegetable in case of emergency. Good example, reducing the food waste and transforming them into corporate solution of emergency preparedness. Lastly, in our area solution business, we are working to connect foodstuff that are otherwise disposed to the marketplace. Specifically, we are using out-of-spec nuts and berries as chocolate toppings and turn them into high value-added product. This is part of JDB's excavation and transmission of a local attractiveness project, which began in September 2020. And the project aimed to discover and promote attractive local in Japan. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Yamakita, for sharing about your holistic approach. In fact, the global roadmap, through the global roadmap, we are calling for a more holistic approach, including the sustainable procurement, sustainable menus, also more responsible consumption and circular disposal so that food never becomes waste.
I would have gone.
My next question is for Vincent. Vincent Benjamin is Commercial Director for the Asia Pacific region at WeKnow, and WeKnow is a provider of food waste management technology enabled with artificial intelligence. So Vincent, based on the data that you have available from the hotels and cruise lines that use your technology, could you help us frame the problem? Like how big is it? How much food waste is generated in tourism, and what are the implications in terms of costs?
Thank you, Virginia. First of all, I'm really happy to be invited here. I believe by now we all know that we have a problem of food waste, and it's nice to see that tourism industry is really taking the charge on trying to solve that. There is one figure that is quite well known already, that's 1/3 of the food produce is never eaten. And the problem is growing. So there is a Boston Consulting Group report which is forecasting that in 2030, if nothing changes, we'll be wasting 2.1 billion tons of food. And in terms of value, it's 1.5 trillion US dollar. So it's very large. And hospitality industry is representing around 10% of that. So hospitality industry is generating 115 billion US dollar of food waste every year. And when you think about the waste here, you need to take into account the other resources that are being used in order to produce the food. So we are talking energy, labor, logistic, packaging, so a negative impact on sustainability here. Before I continue, I just want to share on what WeKnow is doing in order to solve the problem. So for the one who don't know our company, we are providing AI tools to hospitality industry to help them run more profitable and sustainable kitchens by cutting their food waste in half. How does it work? We have a digital scale which is connected to a box, and there is a touch screen and a camera assisted by AI, which is able to recognize and record the food that is being thrown in a bin. And because we have this information, we are able to build analytical and to pinpoint where the waste is being produced and to stop it before it happens. So that's what we are doing. Today, we are working in over 1,000 of kitchens. And the first thing we do when we install a system in the kitchen, we are measuring how much food waste they are producing. What we see generally, typically, is that there are 5 to 15% of the food that they are buying that goes directly to the bin. So very large amount. And it's not because the culinary team and the chef are not willing to address it. It's because they are taking decision and making forecasts in a very high pressure environment, and they don't have all the information that they need. So there is really a data gap here. And it's even more important when you think that where the waste is happening. 70% is happening before the food goes in the plate of the customer. It's on overproduction and on preparation. So that's departments that the kitchen can control if they know about it. And that's where data analytical can really help. When they know, they will be able to see what are the main items wasted. They will be able to look at the root cause and to make some changes and cut the food waste before it happens. Sorry. So, and the other important part is when you are cutting food waste, you are not only having an action on sustainability, you are also working on the business case. You are also saving money. I'll give you an example. You take an hotel that is spending $500,000 per year in food cost. And now, on average, we will see that 10% is food waste, so $50,000. By cutting it in two, you have $25,000 that will go directly to your P&L. So that's not only a question of sustainability, this is also a question of being competitive. By doing that, you are reaching two goals, sustainability and profitability. And you have a very good story in terms of marketing to tell to your customer. You can show them that you really care. And I think it's a very positive light that you are putting on your own organization. So at WeKnow, we are really fortunate. We are working with top industry players for hotels, group like Accor, Hilton, Marriott, IAG, cruise industry, Costa Cruise, for example, and even casino, Wynn and Sands, to mention a few. In Japan, and when there is this culture of respect of food, we have a great partnership with property like Hilton Tokyo Bay. It's successful because the team, from the general manager, which really care about sustainability, to the steward in the kitchen, they're really engaged and they are doing all the effort to do the reduction. And we have a great success story here. If you want to know more, I recommend you to go on WeKnow website and to look at their video testimonial. I think they will talk about it in a better way than I can do. And to finish on this part, the case study we are the more proud of, it's IKEA. IKEA, you might know they have a very large F&B operation, 550 million guests in their restaurant every year. And working with WeKnow, we have engaged 20,000 of their staff in over 400, sorry, maybe that will be helpful, with over 400 outlets, and we are reaching over 50% reduction globally. And that's an important milestone because IKEA is the first global company to reach its commitment in terms of reducing food waste. So as a result, they are saving 20 million meals per year and $37 million every year. So this is a case that shows that tackling food waste is very important and it's also rewarding. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Vincent. I think that the case for food waste reduction is now clear. We have a business case, we can reduce environmental impact, and also I would say there is a humanitarian case, taking into account that still 1 out of 9 people in the world go to bed hungry. Moreover, food waste is cross-cutting, as you can see on the slide, to all stages of food management, and therefore it can be a lever to accelerate sustainability. Let's hear now from Maddalena. Ms. Maddalena Fossati is editor-in-chief of La Cucina Italiana and head of content of Condé Nast Traveler Italia. She's global ambassador for sustainability of Condé Nast. Maddalena, La Cucina Italiana is engaging readers in the use of local ingredients, among other best practices. How is Condé Nast promoting a better understanding of food sustainability?
Thank you for the question, Virginia, and thanks to let me be here today. We are working hard on make all these messages being delivered correctly to the audiences, because without that message, we can't do a lot. So With La Cucina Italiana, for example, just a few words about the brand. It's been existing since 1929 in Italy. So it's like an institution. Before it was just a magazine. Now, of course, it's a digital platform, many different platforms. We are working a lot about food waste and also about reusing leftovers or using foraging, because all these subjects belongs already to our own tradition. Cuisine in Italy is based on these pillars. They are so contemporary nowadays, but they were coming from the past. It's very interesting because I heard this word tradition many times in this environment, and it's very important for us. For Italians, food is beyond food, beyond the meal. We are really identify our own culture in food. And being traditional, it doesn't mean to be old. It doesn't mean to give a look back, but it's meant to give a look forward. Because tradition comes from the Latin verb tradere, that it means deliver. So basically what we are trying to do is deliver what we had in the past toward the future. And doing the most beautiful way, because beauty in the iconic images and in the way we present our topics, it's important, because if we say to our audience, eat some, I don't know, a leftover or a food waste, something that comes from a waste, people it's not very appealing. So what we do every day is create beauty and to create the right message. The fact that tradition is strong and has to be the future, the fact that beautiful, the food sustainability can be beautiful. And so create the awareness that we need for getting in a much better planet. Convincing with the right message. And the message, we have 20,000 recipes in our archive. That is quite a lot. And they're changing, because it's important also to switch the mentality of the customers. I'm thinking when you go to restaurants or even at home, the idea is not that we, for example, in Italy, it's very obvious to satisfy our guests at home with large portion of food. I think it's important to give the message that the large portion of food is going to be leftover for sure. Maybe it's not important to engage ourselves in creating something back to leftovers, but instead to have not leftovers anymore. So when we go to a restaurant, maybe we can get the right amount of food, or not exaggerating, or not too small, or asking not what we want or what we expect to eat, but what really the nature is able to give in our plate that day, in that moment of the season. Or even eating aggressive species, like we do, for example, in a restaurant in Venice with 1 Michelin star, where we basically eat the blue crab. That is a big problem in Venezia for La Laguna, because there are too many. So the solutions are definitely on the plate, if you allow me to do this example. And it's important that in this solution, we are creating, in Italy, and I think in Japan and many parts of the world, gastronomy, it's tradition often and identity. And in the important chapter of becoming more sustainable, I think in identity we have also to switch our way of identify ourselves when we have a meal. Let's go to, for example, the sense of community, the sense of generosity. It's crucial to solve the problem, because in my my hometown in Milan, I have a neighbor that is very old, so he cannot go for food shopping, for example. And there is this guy that has an amazing market right in front of us, and every Saturday he brings food shopping at home, organic. Okay, the market is not that charming, it's in a parking lot in Milan, but the food is really good. And for example, this guy brings all the food for all the building, basically, and we share a lot. We share the food, we share the idea, we share companies, because sustainability, it's a matter of sharing food in the right way, but also sharing our attitude towards society, our way to live together, our way to stand together in front of a problem. And with La Cucina Italiana, of course, with Condé Nast, we are working hard on that, where several editors with different subjects. Of course, as you know, the company is more devoted to fashion, but we have, we are working on different fields, to tourism, of course, with content as traveler, in order to understand and to also to make awareness in the audiences and make all we can't solve the problem if we don't engage ourselves in the first instance on solving the problem. So I think that we have to stay in the idea that in this planet, we are not the owners, we are guests. And as we said in Italy, after 3 days, the guest is like a fish. After 3 days, you smell bad if you stay too long. I think the 3 days are over, so now we need to be guests instead of owners. Thank you, and grazie.
Thank you, Madalena, very much for reminding us about the link of gastronomy and identity, as you said. And I hope the reduction of food waste would also become tradition and part of our identity. Let's continue discussing how tourism can be part of the solution with Benjamin. Benjamin Lefilibert is CEO of Light Blue Consulting. He's a food waste hacker since 2012, a guest lecturer on food waste in culinary schools, and co-designer of the Pledge certification, as well as the founder of the UN awarded Light Blue, a tech and consulting firm working on food waste prevention with hotel groups, restaurants, government, and development agencies. Benjamin, could you share with us some of the key elements that you integrated in the Zero Food Waste project in Mauritius, please?
Thank you. Thank you very much for the invitation. Good afternoon. Japan is just after a nice meal, so everybody is a bit, I would say sleepy. So we're gonna hope to share a bit. So thanks for the introduction. Indeed, I started the journey on food waste about 10 years ago now. Started from the hotel sustainability angle. So I was working first with Accor Hotel Group, and then with the UN on addressing issues such as energy, water, waste, chemicals, staff awareness, guest engagement. And then started to realize that there was those bins full of food. And I'm not from the industry, so first I thought like I was a bit of a fraud, I was like, okay, I'm not a chef, but I need to ask because I see those bins full of food. I'm like, how many kilos are in this bin? And what is it? And why are you wasting? And how much did it cost you? And I couldn't get an answer. I would see that blank look on their faces, and I would be like, I don't think it's a stupid question, and it's funny that you can't answer it. And that's still the case. And this lack of knowledge, I think, is essential and what actually drawn me into this sort of topic. Then I realized the amazing impact of food waste from a social and environmental perspective. But then I knew that this angle, the financial aspect, would be the key lever to get the industry to move on this topic, as Vincent mentioned earlier. So that's how I started. But at the beginning, I was like, okay, but that's funny. There must be some people working on it. And actually, no. At the time, there was actually no actual definition of what is food waste. And I was like, but we don't really care. I mean, we know this is food that is going to the bin. It's wrong. There should be enough to get going. And that's how I started. First, I was alone. So I convinced a general manager to let me try a methodology that I built. I was at the back of house measuring every food that was going to the bin out of 8 different recording points. And then moving forward, fine-tune our methodology, train the staff, collect data, and trying to review the procedures. And actually all this work actually combined created very nice results. But we were way too early at the time to get the industry to move because the figures that we had was not digestible. That was not acceptable. It was just too freaky. It was like, this is too big. You must be wrong. We're doing great. See you later. So I was like, no, let's continue. Let's persist. And well, now 10 years later, we have designed multiple types of solutions because I think that food waste is a complex issue that requires elaborated solutions. So technology, as was presented earlier, is part of it. Collecting data, information to answer the key question, how much, when, where, what, and why is food wasted is essential. But what is essential too is to work on the brain and on the heart of people that are working in the kitchen. So what we say always with our customers is like, start with the why. Start to get your team to understand why food waste is an issue, Otherwise, they would see it as something that is pushed on them. You know, there's something that that is a new constraint. Oh, we don't have time. It's super busy, etc. Now you want me to segregate and weigh food? Yes, but if they can answer why, like from a financial, environmental, social point of view, then they would contribute. Not only they would do what is requested, but they will come up with ideas. But it's not yet enough. Even though you can start with awareness raising and monitoring, I think you can probably reduce food waste by 30 to 40%. Even more if you're really into it. But then you need some sort of methodology, and that's how the Pledge on Food Waste certification was actually created, by realizing that you kind of need a roadmap, to take the terminology, a set of requirements that you follow to make sure that you have all preventive measures in place to minimize food waste at first, but then to also look at, once you have minimized, what can you do to redistribute for human consumption through app or through charities? If not possible, what do you do with the remaining organic to transform it into animal feed, if it's possible, or to transform it into something valuable, such as waste to energy or waste to compost, and to re-nourish the soil. So that's the approach, which is zero food waste to landfill approach, which technically then led us to the final slide, which is the zero food waste to landfill Mauritius project, which was basically a combination of, well, all the know-how accumulated over those years and the different type of solutions that I presented earlier, from the capacity building of the 10 restaurants that were actually implementing the solution, but also the capacity building of local consultants that were involved in the project so that they could carry on this project once we are out, plus the technology to capture data and understand and answer those key questions. And that is encapsulated into this certification system that is providing the right methodology to follow through. And I think the figures speak for themselves. We're talking about only 10 restaurants, so 43% reduction in food waste per cover. That's the key indicator we're looking at. 62,000 kilos of food that were not wasted, and accumulated 210,000 USD saving equivalent for those 10 beneficiaries. So that's what I wanted to share, and I hope we have a chance to discuss separately the possibility to replicate this sort of very cost-effective and scalable system. Thank you.
Thank you, Benjamin, for sharing such an inspiring example of a destination taking action on food waste. Let's continue our journey from Italy to Mauritius and now back to Japan. My next question is for Ms. Yamada. Ms. Sakiko Yamada is president of an award-winning company, Food Loss Bank, by Japan Times, and received Game Change Maker. She was awarded Commander Decoration from the King of Spain for her sustainable work and covered by many media globally. Her work was featured by UN, by FAO in particular, as a masterclass, and she's also an ambassador for the world's 50 best restaurants. Sakiko, what are the initiatives that you are leading which you think are being more successful in influencing citizens and also policymakers and businesses?
Well, okay, thank you very much for having me, first of all. So first, we always tell them why we have to work on food loss and food waste programs, especially on tourism. When you talk about GHG, which is a greenhouse gas, people always talk about the fright shame and everything. But if you look at the numbers, freight only produce 1.4% of emission. But on the other hand, food loss and food waste emit 8.2%, which is almost as much as all the car transportation, including taxi, cars, and trucks and everything. And if you look at the entire food system, which starting from the production, packing, and eating, and cooking, and everything, it's about 21 to 37% of entire emission, according to IPCC. So I call it loss shame rather than fright shame. But people think, oh, food loss and waste is not a big issue, but that's 1/3 of the emissions actually coming from the food loss and waste. And if you see the food loss and waste as a country, it's actually the 3rd largest emitter. So this is the reason why we have to work on food loss and waste in any industry. And when we talk to the companies we work with, we do work with global brands and also very local companies. And I call it global. I think it's, a lot of people have heard of it, global approach. So we do have to have a global point of views, but we have to cater to the local, or we have to take local authentic things to bring it to the global. But it's a matter of diversity in Japan. It's a homogeneous country. We don't have many races, but it's not only men and women LGBT, but the size of corporations and the city and the local press is also a diversity. And we do have this project called Agri Love. It's not agriculture, agri, it's agri, U-G-L-Y, Agri Love. And we brand a local farmer's product and then have them use at the Gucci and Bulgari and then the big brand corporation to use the local product. It doesn't mean, like Madalena said, the traditional is to deliver. We're not changing anything about the traditional local things, but we change the way to appeal to the others, so that we change the way to deliver that to or promote to the global audience. And it helps to work that with the global audience. And for example, we recently started the project called the Rescue Rice. In Japan, every year we have a new rice. So the old rice, in one day, the new rice become old rice. And the old rice have nowhere to go, so it's usually stored at the storage, which actually costs money. So we branded it, and then we asked like Bulgari and Armani to use it. It's for the risotto. So now we don't have to bring the rice from Italy. So we save the carbon footprint, and we also save the domestic farmers. So we do have a lot of cross-culture, cross-border, cross-size approaches. And what else? So we do have a lot of a project that, this is actually when we were featured as a masterclass by UN FAO. We do a lot of sustainable project, but the most important thing when we do the sustainable project is to making sustainability sustainable. In Japan, doing good things tend to be donation or volunteers, and that's okay to set aside, like a CSR, to set aside a budget to do something for good. But if you want to do the sustainability sustainable, we do have to make the project or company sustainable. So every project we do, so all the companies in cities, they all actually financially making profit. Otherwise, we can't keep doing the same thing in the future. So we were featured at making sustainability sustainable by the UN FAO. So that's how we approach the companies and things to explain why, and then we can make sustainability sustainable.
Thank you, Sakiko. Very nice initiatives. I think it would be fantastic if we could replicate some of those initiatives also with more tourism brands. Our next speaker is coming from India. Mr. Nakul Anand is Executive Director of the Board of ITC Limited, an Indian conglomerate with diversified portfolios like hotels, consumer goods, paper, and many others. Its hospitality business, ITC Hotels, has pioneered the concept of responsible luxury, and ITC is the only company in the world of its size to have achieved the global environmental distinction of being carbon, water, and solid waste recycling positive enterprise for over 15 years in a row. So, Mr. Anand, as part of your commitment to responsible luxury, you are implementing a variety of initiatives to manage food more sustainably. Could you take us through a quick tour of salient initiatives and also your achievements in terms of food waste reduction?
Thank you, and it's an honor to be here. The ITC Hotels Group runs and owns about 115 hotels in 6 brands with over 11,000 rooms. A decade ago, when we decided to get into the luxury space, the challenge was to blend luxury and sustainability in a business conventionally known to be indulgent. It was believed that you indulge in. Deliberations led us to choose that either or wasn't an alternative. We had to combine the two, and therefore we took the path less traveled. Thus was born responsible luxury. Today, Of our 23 owned hotels, all 23 are LEED Platinum certified, first of its kind in the world. We have the world's first 9 LEED Zero Carbon certified hotels, and we've surpassed the 2030 sectoral emission targets that COP has set for 2030. Over 50% of our electricity consumption is through renewable sources. We eliminate all single-use plastic, eliminating 2.5 kgs annually. We reduce 50% of fresh water consumption over the last 5 years, sequestering 95,000 tons of carbon dioxide annually. Over 50% of our food and beverage comes from sources locally. And more about this later, the number of programs we've developed to encourage consumers to have local food. Experts rightly say that 2 habits tower above all others in their environmental impact to help save the planet: quit wasting food and eat less meat. Rightly so. When food rot, it emits a gas 20 times more potent than carbon dioxide. Proud to say, and if I may take leave of modesty, that we recycle more than 99% of our solid waste that is generated. This includes rescued foods that are repurposed, upcycled whenever possible, segregation, quantification, and measurement of food waste at source for stakeholder sensitization, spent oil for soap and biodiesel, and every hotel is provided with an organic waste converter and biomethanation purpose for other useful purposes. Moving to some of our food and beverage efforts, we are inspired by the wisdom of our ancestors. The Indian cuisine, imbibing its principles from Ayurveda, is anchored on 2 pillars: wellness and sustainability. You've heard from some of the other speakers of the steps that are necessary in terms of wastage, right portioning, etc. ITC Hotels has put together a number of programs to put this together, and allow me to take you through some of these. Alert Meats is a banqueting initiative with menus so designed to provide a green banqueting, as long as restricting food coma after the food, because many times after lunch, right, they become less productive, your meetings. One Bite Wonders are chef-crafted, reimagined appetizers. They are nutritious, right-sized, and eco-conscious. Choose wisely. I'll speak about it later in a full slide. Welcome's Meal is a dining experience created for the in-room single diner. These are well-balanced meals, correctly portioned, that allow minimal wastage with luxury of choice. Pavilion Pure is a blend of fruit and vegetable fresh juices, rich in oxidants, curated with seasonal and local ingredients. Every person, 95% according to statistics, have breakfast in the hotel. And if you're to make an impact through a message, you've got to do it through breakfast. Therefore, Signature Mornings is a reimagined breakfast, presenting superfoods in contemporary breakfast renderings, including forgotten grains. The Nut Jar, again, is a breakfast offering, emphasizing the nutritional credentials of nuts, such as omega-3, essential fatty acids, and high dietary fibers. Local Love, a most interesting program, is a selection of local food and beverage favorites by our food Sherpas. Every hotel has a food Sherpa who's a chef. They go out into the market, bring recipes that help preserve local heritage, use local ingredients, and lesser-known cooking techniques. Sattva stands for purity in Sanskrit. This vegetarian initiative is promised on truth and purity of vegetarian cuisine, all the way from procurement, cooking, storage, and service. They are not mixed with non-vegetarian food at all. Welcome Sthalika, I'll take in a second. Route to SEM is a buffet-based program in the buffet, rooted in the tenets of sustainable practices to create widespread awareness of waste. Plant-based is constant work by our chef on a number of plant-based initiatives to create new plant-based menus. The feel-good menu is which evolved during the pandemic in our takeaway from in-depth research, uses ingredients to boost immunity while revitalizing, detoxifying, and repairing mind and body. Just to take you through some of them, some of our programs, One that we are proud of is the Choose Wisely program. This is ITC Hotel, which is the first hotel to participate in the World Wildlife Fund Choose Wisely program, aimed at promoting informed choices on fish consumption, incorporating a visual mnemonic to our menus on what fish to eat and what not to. Every region across India has its own thali, or what is known as sthalika. This is Lokava food. Welcome Sthalika is a tribute to the local cuisine where each hotel is located, presenting a composite assortment in a balanced combination of lentils, local millets, seasonal fresh produce, and meats. Swasthya is a melange of modern revival flavors that promote wellness and restoration, calm the mind, uplift the mood, enhance the memory, and slow down the effect of aging. Before I conclude, just like to remind everybody that do remember that there is enough research to show that sustainable food is also healthy food. Therefore, I end my quote with the apologies to people in the pharmaceutical industry by taking a quote from the Vedas going into our past scriptures. And I quote, "Without a proper diet, medicines are of no use. With a proper diet, medicines are unnecessary." Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Anand, sir, for sharing with us, I would say, an appetizer of ITC efforts. It's impressive, the breadth of initiatives that you are implementing. Of course, we look forward to continue learning more. Before we move into the next panelist, I would like to build on one of the concepts presented by Mr. Anand, which is the food waste hierarchy. It's actually important to keep in mind this pyramid, and because what this pyramid is telling us is the order in which our efforts make most sense. And also Benjamin was talking about this concept before, so we should primarily focus on preventing food waste from happening in the first place. Then the food waste which is still remaining needs to be redistributed to people first, and whichever is still left shall be diverted from landfill via animal feed or biomaterial processing, such as composting or energy recovery, for example. This is not always such a straightforward because it depends on the local regulations, but if we keep this pyramid in mind, I think we will maximize the impact of our efforts. And the global roadmap, which we are launching today, is rooted in this hierarchy. And now, Iñaki, it's your turn. Mr. Iñaki Gaztelumendi is a technical coordinator at the Basque Culinary Center, where he coordinates different projects, including research, and he's also a strategic consultant in the tourism sector. Iñaki, our panel has been anchored on SDG 12, which focuses on sustainable consumption and production. And gastronomy can nevertheless have broader impacts than SDG 12 and actually contribute to implementing the whole Agenda 2030 on sustainable development. So could you share with us the findings of your latest research, please?
Of course. Well, good afternoon, Virginia. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers for inviting me to this amazing country, to this beautiful city, and to participate in this round table and to share the stage with such interesting visions from my colleagues and initiatives on the future of the planet and the role of that gastronomy can play in the current context. In this regard, I would like to recommend the reading of Wendell Berry's work, The Pleasures of Eating. Berry is an American writer, he's a poet, he's a farmer, who in my opinion is a reference in the field of sustainable gastronomy. In this book that has more than 40 years, it comes from the 80s of the last century, Berry describes the importance of understanding the connection between eating and the land in order to extract pleasure from our food. For that reason, he says that eating is an agricultural act. It's because he understands that it's very important for us to be conscious that what are the sources of the food that we use to try. Now, precisely this year, like you said, the Basque Culinary Center has produced, in collaboration with the Ibero-American General Secretariat, a report on the contribution of gastronomy to the achievement of sustainable development goals. The report, I'm sorry, has been published in Spanish and Portuguese, that the main languages of the Ibero-American region, but I hope that it will be soon available in English. Well, in this report, more than 14 experts have participated, which includes 34 samples of initiatives in 16 Ibero-American countries. We have reached 30 conclusions and recommendations, but don't worry, Virginia, because I know that I don't have time to detail the whole report, but I would like to remark the main conclusions and recommendations. And the first one is that we have to understand that gastronomy is a sector with multiple dimensions that has an enormous cultural, social, economic, and environmental importance, and plays a growing, multifunctional, connecting role in contemporary societies. We must recognize that gastronomy has a difficult perimeter to delimit, and that is why at the Basque Culinary Center we advocate for this 360-degree vision of gastronomy. And we have to assume as well that we are facing one of the most influential symbolic manifestations of today's society. The second is that the planet is facing the depletion of natural resources due to the overexploitation and overconsumption, overfishing, deforestation, scarcity of water or fossil fuels, waste management, etc. And gastronomy has been yet another expression of an economic system that has uncritically relied on the growth model that causes environmental impacts, territorial imbalances, and social inequality. In fact, food waste is at the heart of the uses to be transformed by sustainable gastronomy. And Virginia, I therefore take this opportunity to congratulate UNWTO for the global roadmap on food waste reduction in tourism, because we think exactly that these are the kind of initiatives that we have to develop to have a better tourism in the future. And we also have to understand that long supply chains reduce the benefits of producers and trivialize the consumer experience. The third main conclusion is gastronomy is a driving force for sustainable development. In our opinion, gastronomy is a lever of change for sustainable development. And in my opinion, gastronomy is one of the forces that move the world. It's a tool with a great impact on society. In this regard, we must remark, as we have seen this morning, the cultural, social, and environmental commitment of chefs. We also have to notice the paradigm shift due to the COVID-19 crisis. We are looking now for more local, conscious, sustainable, and healthy gastronomy, and the importance of concepts like as circular economy or gastrodiplomacy. The fourth conclusion is that the digital revolution is an accelerator. This crisis has accelerated the digitalization of the gastronomy sector, and technology provides new means to connect with people in other countries, new business models, like we have seen in this panel, improved operational and logistical efficiency, knowledge and training opportunities. The fifth is the importance of human factor. Businesses must be profitable in order to be able to fairly and equitably remunerate all the agents involved in gastronomy value chain. We need to improve the living conditions of people working in our sector, and we have to attract, to stimulate, and to retain talent. But the public sector must also create the conditions for the development of sustainable gastronomy. And this will be possible with the collective effort. Partnerships are key to the transformation of the sector. Public-private partnerships and the role of local communities are crucial to address the complexity of food value chains at the sector as a whole. And finally, in our opinion, the change has begun. We all know that the road to building inclusive food systems, equitable societies, and integrated community development is long and challenging, but the potential of gastronomy to contribute to a more sustainable society is unquestionable. And we have to understand that gastronomy will be sustainable or it won't be. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Iñaki, for reminding us once more about the potential of sustainable gastronomy to address not only SDG 12.3, which is the specific target in Agenda 2030 asking us to halve food waste, but also other SDGs. We can address hunger, food security, inequality, climate, economic growth, etc. As we have a couple minutes left, well done, everyone. Let's share a short answer to a common question, if you agree. What would you tell businesses or destinations that are still not prioritizing the sustainable management of food? In 30 seconds, what would be your call? Mr. Yamakita, let's go one by one, please.
Yeah, this is a call for the business partner inside, outside. We want to create the sustainable tourism supply chain involving as many people as possible. So please share the ideas, any kind of ideas with our 423 offices inside Japan, outside, 187 offices all over the world. So please share the idea and involve many people. Thank you.
So very simple message, food is too valuable to be wasted. And there is identified solution to avoid it. So there is no excuse today not to address it. And happy to discuss further if you want more advice about it. Thank you.
I think if we don't do anything, these companies that don't do anything, they missed the next generations, because next generations are going to ask strongly about sustainability, and they're more careful about all the subject that we are talking today.
Yeah, I would say that what is currently missing is something as simple as a database of food waste solution providers that any players in the ecosystem can turn to. And this is, something from those that can collect the organic waste to those that can provide technology or apps or train people. And this ecosystem is currently missing, and there is now ways to centralize it. I would think it would help a lot.
So I think almost every single of tourism involved with the carbon footprint, unless it's tourism, the cycling tourism. So there should be the place to do the carbon offset, because especially like younger generation and the luxury sector, they really care about the carbon offset. So maybe that can start from your kitchen.
Well, I just have two short messages to share. And then the first one is that we have a collaborative and multidimensional challenge lies ahead. And the second is that we need to move from words to action.
We will not be able to restrict global warming without changes in the way the world eats, because we play such an important part of the system. And therefore, my message would be that in our responsible present lies our sustainable future.
Thank you so much. I would say food waste is everyone's business. So let's do it. We really need to prioritize this very important issue. Thank you very much, dear colleagues. You have been fantastic. I look forward to continue engaging with you, as well as with our audience, those connected online, in the implementation of the global roadmap on food waste reduction in tourism. Thank you very much.
Thank you.